This is Harvard on the Map, presented by the Harvard Graduate School of Design, covering innovative ideas and thought leaders in digital cartography, Earth observation, and all things geospatial, with your host, Jennifer Horowitz.
So hello and welcome to Harvard on the Map. I'm here with Briana Brown, who is the head of content and geography at SafeGraph. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, first, I'm excited to discuss the work that SafeGraph does. For our listeners in the Boston area who may not be as familiar with the work that SafeGraph does, would you describe the services and the data that SafeGraph provides?
Yeah, sure. So at SafeGraph, we curate and sell data about physical places. So that's points of interest, place polygons, and then data about consumer behavior at those places. We literally just sell CSV files of data. So we don't have a visualization or like analytics platform, anything like that. We're really just focused on building the most up-to-date, accurate, high-quality places data. And we see ourselves as an ingredient in larger solutions that rely on that geographic information. So we're also a completely remote company headquartered in Denver, but most of our employees are US and Canada based.
I'm so a fan of the SafeGraph data sets. I feel like for all of these different data science projects, I'm always looking. I saw, they have Burger King data. I should make a fun little map of that. And they're drool-worthy data sets, and I encourage our listeners, even if you're not a geo person, to check it out. Yeah,
I love that, drool-worthy.
They are.
Yeah, I agree. It makes my job really fun because I'm really in charge of all the data storytelling, and so there's so many different stories you can tell with that wide variety of data. So always something new and exciting to do every day.
I bet. Yeah. So I have a million questions for you, but I won't take up all of your time. Second question here. So take us through your geospatial journey. How did you end up at SafeGraph, and why did you decide to be there?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I've always loved geography. When I was younger, I just loved maps. I knew I wanted to do something with them. When I was older, I wasn't really sure what that would look like, if I would specialize more in like the natural environment or human geography, or of course the tech side where I ended up. But when I went to college, undergrad, I chose a school with a geography program, and I walked in to that department on my very first day of freshman year and declared my major. And I guess at Villanova, they said that had never happened for geography before. I think it's really a field that, I know I've gotten this response a lot, but people are like, what are you going to do with that? And I don't think people realize how pervasive geography is and how it really is such a important field to study. And there's absolutely no problem being employed after graduating with a degree in anything geospatial related. But anyway, so, I studied geography, and then I interned for Catholic Relief Services my senior year of undergrad, and I wrote GIS training manuals for their humanitarian efforts in Madagascar. And then I, after graduating, started working at Esri. And I was kind of in like a consulting role, but it's more so like customer success, solution engineering, that type of thing. Just helping different businesses realize how they could use maps and geospatial data before I moved into product at Pitney Bowes, which is now Precisely. So I worked on their data side of things, overseeing the product portfolio for address points, demographics, and boundary data. And then while I was there, I actually shifted over into product marketing. I realized I really just liked communicating about what maps and data could do. And then that led me here to SafeGraph. So I sit on the marketing team, but as I said before, I'm really in charge of data storytelling, just communicating what our data sets can do, the value that they bring. So that can be anything from our enterprise business users or academics, nonprofits, anyone that's using our data, or any ways that we're just hearing of people using our data. And I just really like talking about it and, sharing visualizations, writing about it. I guess I would describe myself as a geographer and a writer.
Wow, that sounds like a really cool job, especially just given just the diverse number of different kinds of data sets you get to draw on. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have this job. I really enjoy what I do. And like I said, and you said it too, there's so many different things you can do with our data, and like we're continuing to expand. So in the year and a half that I've been at SafeGraph, we've actually expanded internationally. So that has opened up a wide range of stories to tell. When I first started, we were only providing data for US and Canada. So of course, plenty to say there, but now we provide data for the whole world. So really expanding all over the place.
I'm curious, has there been one particular data set that stands out, or a very interesting use case that has just really comes to mind that you thought, wow, I never thought people would use the data this way, or you know, a data set that you think, oh wow, I didn't even know we had that.
Yeah, that's such a tough question. And I'm sure like later tonight, I'm gonna be like, oh wait, I should have talked about this one. So I think the data set that I personally like to work with the most is just our normal flagship places data set. That's our points of interest. And the reason I like to work with that the most is because it is global. So I'm really interested in you know, international views of different things. So whether that be where certain types of businesses are, how different markets compare to each other. I really like an international angle. So I think that data set is really interesting to work with. And it also just provides the foundation for the rest of our data sets. You know, the consumer behavior data, the place polygon data, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting. It would be almost impossible to build without knowing exactly just like the points of interest and what is really happening at that specific, you know, geospatial point. So that's definitely my favorite data set to work with. And I think also it's the most versatile. So, you know, in terms of interesting use cases, I guess, oh my gosh, I really like seeing the academic research that people come out with. I mean, that's not to say that, you know, the traditional business use cases like site selection or urban planning, those sorts of things. It's not to say that those are not interesting, but I think academics are always finding just really interesting ways to just slice our data and look at it. So I know there was a study that you know, some academics did about our data, or with our data, about how the business landscape changed after Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, and, you know, different businesses opening and closing based on that, and just how natural disasters can impact business landscapes and when they are gonna, you know, get back to normal, all of that. And then actually recently, because of all of the news with Ukraine and Russia, we've seen a lot of press outlets interested in some of the major brands that are pulling out of Russia. So just seeing where, like you mentioned Burger King earlier, I think that's one of them that recently announced that they're no longer going to be operating there. So having the points of interest data and being able to see sort of like a before and after of what, you know, the business landscape looked like, that's something that's very relevant right now.
Yeah, fascinating. Especially, I hadn't even thought the Ukraine Russia stuff, all of the consumer data must be so interesting. Yeah, wow.
Huh. Yeah, definitely.
Hadn't thought of that. Okay, so for academic researchers, I'm a graduate student right now, interested in making use of SafeGraph's incredible geographic data sets. Cough off me. What would you say is the best way for those within the academic domain to take advantage of SafeGraph's offerings?
Yeah, so our academic program is probably one of the coolest things about SafeGraph. I mentioned before, our main focus is curating the highest quality data, but another one of our core values is making that data accessible to anyone who needs it. And to help academics conduct geospatial research and to make that data accessible to them, we have made our data freely available to academics. So if you visit safegraph.com/academics, and if you just fill out a form that's just right there on that page, we can easily reach out to you and get you set up for free data. And the other thing that kind of goes along with that is we have a very active data science community where academics and other data scientists, even from, you know, like the different businesses that we work with, or just people that are really enthusiastic about geospatial data science, they ask questions and engage with each other about SafeGraph data, but also just tips and tricks for working with geospatial data across a variety of programs. So if you visit safegraph.com/community, you can learn more about that and sign up. And I know that's also a valuable resource for students, professors, just as I said before, data enthusiasts, anybody like that.
Yeah, great. I will check that out. I did sign up for a certificate. I'm excited to sort of make use of these data sets. I've been telling other people about it. I'm an unpaid sponsor for the Surface SafeGraph. I guess I really am shocked by the amount of data that you can get. My final question, I could keep you here all day, but I won't. So final question, at the end of all of my interviews, I ask my interviewees, given the geo theme of the show, to describe a time where you were lost, whether that's physically, in person, or metaphorically in your life or career, and how you found your way back again.
Also a really interesting question. So I think it's funny. I'll say like something kind of funny and then like a serious thing, but some of like my friends and stuff are like, Briana, you always get lost like when we're driving around. And I always say it's kind of like ironic because I feel like I know where I am if I'm looking at like aerial maps, but like when I'm actually on the ground, I don't know, I need the GPS. So people always say that it's a little weird that I'm a geographer and I can get lost, but I think more so on like the metaphorical side that you mentioned. So I feel like I was a little lost when I was actually working at Esri. It was my first real job out of school. And not an internship or anything like that, but just a real job. I was so ecstatic to be working there. It seemed like a dream come true, dream company. And I found myself unhappy and I wasn't sure. I was kind of like, wait, is this just what the working world is like? That's a terrifying thought. Like, I was lost, right? And so I felt like I wasn't taking advantage of working at like this amazing company that most people in my field would be like insanely happy to work at. And I realized it was just the role was not for me. So I think there are a couple things contributing. Like I think there's kind of this stigma against like leaving a job less than a year in. It's like a super arbitrary like 1 year mark, but I was kind of like, okay, I have to make it to that and then I can look elsewhere. And then I think also just like because it was Esri, right? I was like, I loved the company, I loved the people I worked with. I just didn't like what I was doing in my job. So yeah, I was definitely just a little lost because I was kind of like, isn't this it? This is like what I'm supposed to like. And then I ended up like finding my way back to like a better path and the path that I'm on now. I took the plunge. I left there after 8 months, which because of that, weird 1 year thing I had in my head, it seemed wrong, but I found a product role at Pitney Bowes. It was just like a bit more up my alley. And I'm really glad that I did that because that just set me on the trajectory that I'm on now. I don't regret like working in the role that I did. I think working so closely with clients and consulting, it made me like the marketer that I am today. It made me a better product manager when I was in product. So like, I don't regret that, but I'm also just glad that I realized it wasn't for me and I was able to find my way out of it. So I think that's the best like metaphorical, how I was best metaphorically lost. I don't know, to answer your question.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty too. Yeah, I'm starting in full disclosure. I'm starting my full-time job in July, and I get that. I understand that nervousness myself. I know you're way out of that sphere, but that's sort of my mindset of nervousness and excitement, but also nervousness. And that's so interesting. You worked at Esri. That it really is for within geography, like a
Yeah. No. And like I said, it was great. And it's actually the best of both worlds now because SafeGraph and Esri are partner companies. So I get to work with people at Esri now, like all the time in my current job. So it just wasn't like the right role for me. And I think that's like perfectly fair for people to figure out and accept and kind of like move on.
Yeah, no, it's totally fair. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, Brianna. Thanks for
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.